Spirit lead, truth unfold. Sometimes God's wisdom is
with your host, Alan B. Conley.
Unconventional.
Welcome to the place where the unconventional happens. I'm your host, Alan B. Conley, and you're tuned in to another fantastic episode of Unconventional. For years, women have had to suffer through inequality, making less than their male counterparts. But we are witnessing history today where we're seeing the rise of women, and I liken those women unto Wonder Women. So today, that's what we're going to talk about in today's episode. But to set the stage for the message, we have a young man from Chicago, Illinois, who's going to be singing his single, This Joy I Have. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for my friend and brother, Ricardo Rivers.
Everybody clap those hands. Hey, if you've got joy in your spirit, this is the song for you. I want to see you move. I want to see you dance. Hey, oh, yeah. This joy, we're so grateful. We're so thankful. Oh, listen, I can't complain. I may not have everything that I want, but the fact remains, with you I have greater things in store. You give me peace, hey. Even when the storms are raging, you're everything that I need. Hey, that's what it takes to run this race. It's just a little bit, yeah. That's what it takes to run this race. It's just a little bit, yeah. That's what it takes to run this race. It's the world didn't give it to me, y'all. When trouble comes, I've got joy. When I woke up early this morning, this joy that I have, the joy deep down in my soul, y'all. No matter what comes, I've got joy. It's in my hands and it makes me wanna dance. Hey, oh, just dance with joy. Hey, let me see you dance. This joy. Oh, hey, get up and dance with joy. Listen, this is my testimony. This joy that I have, every loss that I have taken, the world can't take it away from me. God gives me joy. It's down in my heart. This joy that I have, God gives me peace every day. No matter how much I've suffered, I've got joy. It's in my feet and it makes me wanna leap. Hey, let me see you leap for joy. Oh, just dance for joy. When life gives you another chance, I hope you dance. This joy that I have, this unspeakable joy, that's for joy. Yeah. This joy that I have. Encourage somebody else today. Tell them to dance for joy. Through every adversity, through every problem, every situation, God gives us joy. He'll give you peace in the midst of the storm. Dance for joy. Let me see you clap those hands. Let me see you clap those hands. Hey, I've got joy. I've got joy. Hey, now let me see you move those feet. Let me see you move those feet. If you've got joy, I've got joy. Ooh, I've got joy. I've got joy. God gives me joy. Joy, unspeakable joy. God's great joy. I've got joy. Good joy. I've got joy. God give it. The world can't take it. I've got joy. Makes me want to clap my hands. Want to run and do my dance. Joy. Oh, yeah, yeah. I've got joy. Joy. I've got joy. Unspeakable joy. Aren't you ever grateful? Aren't you thankful for joy? Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ricardo Rivers, for blessing us with that song and reminding us that this joy that we have, the world didn't give it, and the world certainly can't take it away. I'm ready to talk about this subject that I think is an interesting subject. I titled this message today, Wonder Women. Not too long ago, I had an opportunity to watch a movie that was streaming on our television as well as in the theaters. This was Wonder Woman 1984. Wonder Woman 1984 is a movie about a young lady named Diana Prince who has supernatural abilities, but she's trying to keep them condensed because she's trying to blend into a society that is excessive in greed and wants. And here it is in this movie, she's up against a businessman who comes across this artifact that gives him these supernatural powers. And then she has to come against a coworker who ends up getting some supernatural powers that turns her into a cheetah. She's battling a conniving businessman and a cheetah. Well, this woman, Diana Prince, she goes on to bring peace back into this world in which she's living in. And she reminds me of some women today. She reminds me of the women in our world who are now bringing peace back into a place that was chaotic and utterly confused over the last 4 years. She reminds me of some of the leading women, some who you know, like Stacey Abrams. Stacey Abrams, a minority leader of Georgia House of Representatives, who may have lost the Georgia gubernatorial election, but you better believe it, she played an intricate part in ensuring that African Americans showed up to the polls and voted in historic numbers out there in the state of Georgia. Another leading woman is none other than our first African American Vice President of the United States of America, none other than Kamala Harris. She's also the first Asian American Vice President and the first African American female Vice President. Whether you voted for her or not, we all can conclude that she is a Wonder Woman. In the Bible, there are some Wonder Women that I want us to look at to help us understand this thought of a Wonder Woman. In Exodus chapter 2, which is a story that talks about the birth of Moses. Moses, the one who would be the fearless leader to lead the children of Israel out of bondage into the promised land. Moses would not have been that leader if it had not been for who I call Wonder Women. You see, there was a decree out in the land where the Pharaoh wanted to kill all of the male newborns. Well, these women, because women are creative, women are so intuitive, they are able to do things that sometimes us men, we don't have those abilities to do it. Well, Moses' mother, she knows that there's this decree and she decides that she's going to save her son. In fact, the Bible says that when he was born, she looked at him and saw that he was good. The first thing about Wonder Woman I want you to know is that Wonder Women have vision. And there's a woman who's watching right now. I want you to know that God gave you vision. I don't care how you may think that you don't have 20/20 vision with your natural eye. It's not about what you see with your eyes. It's what you see through that lens called faith. Moses, his mother, she looked at him and saw that he was good, which was similar to when God created his creation. The Bible says that after he created his creation, he looked at it. He sat back and said, it's good. I want to tell you, Wonder Woman have the ability to see good in things and in people when sometimes others see bad. I tell you, I had a mother who, when I was mischievous and always getting into trouble, my mother still saw the good in me. I want to tell you, that's just like our God. God has a way of being able to see good in us when everyone else around us may be talking bad about us, seeing nothing but bad about you. God sees good in you. Why? Because he sees himself in you. We were all made in the image of God. And when that mother looked at her son, she saw God's creation. She saw God's handiwork. That's called vision. Number two, she shows us that Wonder Women have creativity. She couldn't hide Moses any longer when he began to grow and become big in stature. So she says, I gotta put him in a place where he can be saved. What does she do? She creates a baby boat, puts him in the river, and she's just praying and believing that God, some way, somehow, is going to protect her son. Well, that mother did exactly what she thought would happen. She set that son up to be saved by Pharaoh's daughter. Now here it is, Pharaoh puts this decree out in the land to kill all the male newborns because he didn't see the women as being a threat. I want to tell somebody that's watching right now, you may have been trying to keep women suppressed. You may have been trying to keep women making less than men. You may have thought that women were the weaker vessel. I came to tell you today that women are not weak, women are strong, and women are creative. This woman created a way, a pathway for her son to be saved. And I want to tell some women right now, some mother, you are blessed by God with creativity because your God is a creative God. And if your God is a creative God, those same creative juices are in you. I've seen my mother, she stretched $1, that dollar would last for months. And I tell you, sometimes when I get $1, it doesn't even last for 10 minutes. That's creativity. It's creativity when a mother can make your shoes look like they're expensive when she knows she bought those shoes at the corner store down the street. It's creativity when a mother can make one of the best gourmet meals when it was really yesterday's scraps. I tell you, that is creativity. And in this text, we see a woman who has vision, a woman who's creative. But listen to this. We also see women who are courageous. In verse 5, it says that Pharaoh's daughter, she saw the boat, she saw this baby basket coming down the river, and she heard the baby crying. But she did just like his mother did. It says that when she saw the baby, she had pity on him. I want to tell somebody who's watching right now, God sees the dilemma that you're in. God sees the fact that you have some good in you and there's some potential that the enemy is trying to keep from coming into fruition. I want you to know that if God purposed you for greatness, if God purposed you to fulfill destiny, it's going to come to pass. I don't care what the enemy tries to do. If he tries to kill you, if he tries to take you out of here, God will set up a way to protect you. That's what happens in this text. Pharaoh, he initially didn't see the women as a threat, but I guarantee you, he found out that these women were working together, collaborating, and doing something great. I want to tell you, you know that you are a Wonder Woman when you're able to collaborate with other women. I want to dispel that myth that women can't work together. What we see happening right here in the United States of America is the result of women coming together to show off that they have vision, to show that they have creativity, to show that they are courageous, and to show that they are willing and able to collaborate. My brothers and sisters, I want you to know that Wonder Women exist today, and God has allowed us to experience history to remind us that women are fearfully and wonderfully made. To all my Wonder Women out there, keep walking in that wonderful giftedness that God has blessed you with, because this world needs more Wonder Women today. The most disrespected human being on the planet is the woman. But I tell you, the most important human being on the planet is also the woman. We would not be where we are today if it had not been for who I call Wonder Women. I've had some Wonder Women in my life, my mother, my grandmother, who has gone on to be with the Lord. But I have another special Wonder Woman who's with me on today, who's joining me along with two other Wonder Women, who's going to share their stories of trials and triumphs to hopefully inspire you, to let you know that we are living in a day and age where women are leading the way and paving the way for the next generation to be all that they can be. So joining me today is Miss Gashelle Coffey, Pastor Reverend Ellis, and my wife, Tamika Conley. Ladies, thank you all for joining me today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
So great to have you. Awesome. So I want them to know who you all are. And so Miss Gashelle Coffey is a media maven. She's been in ministry, in television ministry for 10 years. She's also been in radio for 34 years. She's an ordained minister, and she's going to share a little bit about her journey on today. And then also we have Reverend Ellis, Latanja Ellis, who's a pastor. She has been in human resources for over 20 years. She's been in ministry for 12 years and pastoring now for 2 years right here in the city of Chicago. And then lastly, my wife, Tamika Conley, who is a hair regrowth specialist. Now, I've seen the pictures of the ladies that she sent me, and sometimes I ask her, I don't know if I'm supposed to be looking at these pictures. Do they really want you to show these pictures? And she always tells me yes, because the ladies are so proud of the fact that they were able to grow their hair back. And that is one of her gifts. But she's also a singer. She served alongside of me in ministry. She served under her late grandfather, who was a pastor in Robbins, Illinois. And she's been a cosmetologist for now 20 years. Ladies, I want you all to share what has been some of the trials that you've had to overcome in order to be successful in your spheres of influence. Gashelle, let's start with you.
I would say that the field of entertainment, period, is pretty much like the song of James Brown, "It's a Man's World." But he also says it's nothing without a woman or a girl. And it's really the woman that makes it go round. So that's what really makes it work. But the entertainment industry has been really, male dominated, like many industries. And excuse me, right now you're dealing with the women's NCAA, teams where they're not getting the same props, the same the gym experience, is now improved. But women also seem to, they want to keep us behind in the kitchen, barefooted, and maybe pregnant, but for the most part, it's really a matter of me having to stand and be strong in my own personality, my own strength, continue to press forward to be who I am. Many times we as women have been pushed back, so the man is pushed forward. The most that I have had to really come up against is standing for what is true, what is right, and what is decent, and what is in order. I've seen a lot of different things that have gone down that was not really, it was not appropriate. It was not truthful, and it wasn't correct. And as a result, my mouth seemed to be the problem, but it wasn't really my mouth as much as it was my heart standing for what is right. So many times I would stand for what is right, what is correct. I would get pushed back and sometimes got pushed out. So, but you know what? God prevails because I really believe that this is my assignment. He has given me a package in terms of my voice, my delivery, my expression, my personality. He gave this to me for him to come through. So whatever he does is going to, it's going to last forever as long as I do it unto him. So whatever I do it unto him, and he keeps me in the pocket. I was out of radio for 20 years, have come back in. That's pretty much unheard of in a city like Chicago. But when the Lord is doing what he wants done, as long as you stay in alignment with him, you always prevail. So the adversity would come against me and I would make my mark. But after that, it is what it is. But I stand for truth. And that's pretty much the hardest thing that I've come up against, is that I could not stand and just go along with a corporate law or a corporate regime when I knew it was not correct. So I would always be the voice of what others were thinking, wanted to say, but I was the one who said it. And you get pushback for that.
I love it. I love it. Sometimes pushed back and then sometimes pushed out. But look at you now. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And so Reverend Ellis, you probably have experienced some pushback, I'm sure, in the ministry, a female in ministry, and but you are gifted, and oftentimes the female minister has to work harder than the male minister because female ministers are sometimes labeled as being emotional, right? And so you have to be even harder at working to show that you are an intellectual being as well. So tell us, what have been some of the trials that you've experienced in your sphere of influence?
So I want to echo my sister here when she said, in the ministry world, it is a man's world. Most nations have had male pastors for I don't know how long. So having a female pastor is foreign to them. So some of the stuff that you have to deal with is really external, but there's also this internal struggle. And I think most of my trials have been because of internal struggles. So it is, am I enough? Do I have the expertise or the wisdom to share what God has for the people? And it's more like a fear of success. A lot of us talk about a fear of failure, but when you're a woman in ministry, to your point, we feel like we have to be over and above. We have to be 3 times better than everybody else. And then there's this connotation of you have to have the hoop when you're preaching. It's not my personality at all. So as a woman preacher, you're coming into this ordained capacity where people are looking to you to lead them, but you have your own doubts. And then you also have those other women, because we like to feel like the men are against us all the time, but there are also other women who have this expectation of you. And I think, and I say this all the time, expectations can kill you. So for me, it's more of an internal struggle. Yes, there are those patriarchal things that happen in churches and denominations around the world, but a lot of it for me has been internal. Am I enough? Am I better? Can I do this? Can I do that? Should I say this? Because I have been told that God has called me to be the disruptor. So every time I challenge or push back, you know, there's this almost blacklist, this imaginary blacklist that you get put on. Yes. You are the one that speaks out. But if God calls us to speak truth to power, then should I not use my voice? So using your voice. And I always say to myself, you know, I am surprised at how far God has brought me, because I believe in Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans that I have for you.
Come on.
Those plans are not my plans. And so wherever it takes me, wherever my voice takes me, I have to go.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And so that's powerful, because what society has sometimes portrayed and afflicted upon the woman sometimes is taken in internally. And so my wife, who I've seen her down through the years, striving to just move forward in the field of cosmetology. I want you to share some of those trials that you've experienced, because internally, some people think, well, externally, some people think that the profession that you are in, that it is usually a female dominated profession. But I'm curious to know, has it always been that way as it relates to your perspective? And what were some of those trials that you've experienced?
Yeah, sure. So, yes, it is a female dominated industry. However, oftentimes it's a male preferred industry. So, one of the trials that our industry faces as far as females in the industry is oftentimes as women we have to prove our worth, prove our decision for various price points, whereas when it's a male, because women may be single or alone and haven't had their shoulders touched, if you will, by a male, if that's their preference, in a while, then they can just throw out a number. Let's say, okay, I'm going to shampoo, blow dry your hair, and that's 175. If a female were to do that, it requires a dissertation, right? That's one thing that other females tend to do to one another, or even proving our worth, our expertise. I myself am an avid class taker, if you will. I love education, the science and the study of hair and the study of the scalp. So I'm constantly reinventing myself and educating myself on those passions. Another trial that we often face is just in general, people believing that the field of cosmetology is more hobby based versus a professional career. It indeed is a career that requires a license, that requires not only an initial 1,500 hours of study, but continual education hours. It's not a hangout type of deal. So oftentimes people treat it as that and view us as if, oh, we're just hanging out and we so happen to get paid along the way. So just debunking those type of myths, that men can do it better, or I prefer a man because of XYZ, or the myths of, oh, she just hanging out, I can call her whenever and just drop in and get my hair done. She'll be there, she'll be available, or we can kick it. No, it is indeed our profession. It is indeed our job. It is indeed what it is that we're skilled and crafted on. So those have been the main two trials of being in the field of cosmetology.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And one of the things that is so important that you lifted up is the fact that it's not a hobby what you do, but it's a profession. Joining me today, I have three professional Black women. And I say professional because even in the field of ministry, there are some who are not necessarily professionals, if we're going to be honest, and mainly because simply because of their gender, they've been able to be placed into a position that sometimes women are more qualified to be in. Gishelle, you being in television ministry as long as you have, and radio.
Mm-hmm.
What are you most proud of in this moment, in this day and age? We're in 2021. Things are a little different than 1950, 1960, 1970, right? But we still got some hills to climb. But what are some of the things that you celebrate now that you could not celebrate maybe 10, 15 years ago?
What really excites me right now is that my heart goes to the millennials, the younger generation, looking
Mm.
for direction. They have energy, innovation, creativity, but the know-how and the structure, they're more open. They're looking for answers. And so there's an openness in terms of the audience that I speak to that are really hungry for what it is that I have to give them. I also celebrate that I am not connected to the corporate entity of the world system. And I say that in regards to what my sister said. The Lord says, I know the plans, the thoughts and the plans that I have for you. They're for good, not evil. The key is there's an expected end. And I'm seeing an end here. I just came out of a radio station that I was unjustifiably let go of, but I'm walking into a network where I'm actually I'm in motion of preparing a full smooth jazz station according to my perspective and the way I think it should be run, in addition to live streaming and a lot of other things that are coming with that in today's world. So there's just so many opportunities for us to have a voice of change and proper change and proper what is proper for change, that there is an audience out there that is willing to listen, and the Lord has given me a voice for it, and I've been waiting for this time. It's been a lot of adversity, there's been a lot of challenges, there's been a lot of stepping stones, but you take the bitter with the sweet, the sun and the rain that makes the flowers grow. And right now we're in a place where when you're grounded in the Father, you can't do anything but grow again, as long as you stay in alignment with him. And that's where I see myself. So I'm happy.
You preaching.
I'm
you
happy.
preaching, Gashelle. Many are the devices of a man's heart.
Yes.
But it's the plans of the Lord that stands. And I tell you, it doesn't matter what the enemy has tried to do to keep you from doing what God has gifted you to do. What I love about you, Gashelle, is that you don't have a problem with letting the door close.
No, I don't.
If
you know that, Alan.
Yep. If that door closed, it wasn't meant for you to be inside of that room. And there's a bigger space. And so I'm just honored that you were even willing to be a part of this so that people can hear your voice. That voice is a powerful voice. And I can't wait to hear what's getting ready to happen next. And so same thing with you, Reverend Ellis. Reverend Ellis, as a preacher, as a prognosticator of the gospel, you cannot communicate the gospel without that wonderful voice that God has given you. So tell me, what are you celebrating today in this season? What are you celebrating being a female pastor? And I don't even like to just say being a female pastor, but being a pastor. Being a pastor, what are you celebrating today, Reverend Ellis?
So today I'm celebrating that I am comfortable in my own skin. Genesis tells us that God created us in God's image. And I am the person that God created me to be, which means no matter what I've done, which means no matter who thinks I should be what, I know who I am. And back then, when I started this process, when I started working in HR, when I started to work in ministry, there were many expectations upon me, and you should do this, or you should be that, or don't do this, or don't do that. That's really not your calling. But after through seminary and getting all these degrees and really figuring out who I am, I can celebrate that that's who God wants me to be. So no matter if you knew a little bit about my history, I was a single parent at 17. People told me that I would not graduate high school. I would not graduate college. Here I am right now today, executive director of HR, pastor of a church. My son is grown and in the Air Force. I am able to speak my story and say that just because you had some mishaps doesn't mean that your life is going to be an end. It's not a death sentence. And so I think I am able to use my life story to bring people to God in the pastor role, because we often hear all these scriptures and people getting beat upside the head with the Bible. I use my life to say that, you know what, whatever people said about you, it does not matter. Whatever people think you should be doing, it does not matter. And that's including your family. Your family can sometimes put you in a situation where you are not doing what you should be doing. And so I celebrate today that I totally know who I am. I totally know where I should be, and I continue to push and learn more about myself and where I should be as a woman.
My. That is powerful. You know who you are. And I pray that someone who watches this broadcast understands that it's okay to be who you are. Because if you don't know who you are, you'll end up doing who you are not. And a lot of times, as you said, family can have you in a place where you're doing who you are not. Identity matters. And so thank you so much for sharing, Reverend Ellis. Tamika, my wife, you have been at this for some time now with the growing people's hair. My mother, who's no longer with us, I remember when she finished up her chemo, and she was on that journey of trying to get her hair back. And I still sometimes I go back and look at some of those pictures. She doesn't even know this, but sometimes I go back and look at those pictures of her sitting in that salon chair with that cape around her, my mother just smiling. And but really, I'm thinking about some of those conversations that they probably were having about me when they were in the salon. But tell me, what are you celebrating today as a cosmetologist, as someone who you overcame so much as it relates to still trying to juggle whether or not you were going to have enough income coming in. There were some transitions, even with in ministry, just with life happening, right? Losing loved ones because you lost your grandmother, your grandfather during the season when you were transitioning and still trying to move ahead in the industry. But what are you celebrating now, today, this day, being in this field of cosmetology?
Sure. I think that my greatest triumph right now is just being accepting of being able to marry both marketplace and ministry. I understand completely that my assignment is not only about the hair, but I'm able to take what it is that's been rooted and grounded in me from a spiritual aspect and be able to package that in a way that when I'm offering these hair services, I'm also offering words of comfort, words of reassurance, and even moments of prayer. I'm grateful for the opportunities for people to come and trust me with their hair when they're the most vulnerable, really exposing of themselves, not just their hair, but their personal lives, because we're also therapists in a sense, right? So that's also adding back to why it's not just a hobby, because literally people are entrusting us, looking to us for advice on their families, on their marriages, just on life in general. And I'm grateful for being able to redirect them back to the Word of God. So right now, my greatest triumph is God has given me the opportunity to unashamedly marry marketplace and ministry. Grateful for the opportunity to be in high demand. I oftentimes people are like, "Oh, your wait is how long before you can get on the books?" And I shy away from, because I never want to sound boastful or arrogant in any kind of way when I say, "Hey, the wait is 2 weeks out," or whatever it is. I'm grateful because then I reflect and I say to them, "Well, no. Unfortunately, I don't have anything for you, but fortunately, this is what I prayed for." And I'm unapologetic about that now. And God is continuing to make me bold in a sense where I understand, once again, my purpose is both ministry and marketplace, merging those two things together. And then from there, being able to comfortably live from what it is that God gives me from that marriage. So that is my greatest triumph in this season in particular.
Wow. You all have just shut it down. And what I took away from that is that all three of you are unapologetically woman. And I think that's powerful. Mrs. Carter said it best. She said, "Who runs the world?" She answered her own question and said, "The woman." That's who runs the world. So anyone who had it conflicted and confused, you know now that women run this world. I thank Gashelle, I thank Reverend Ellis, I thank my wife Tamika, I thank all three of you for joining me today. And I pray that someone was inspired by your testimony, by your stories. And if there's anyone who's watching and you too have a story that you want to share, you can send it in to us at info@BeyondShy, 400 words or less, and we will make sure that your story gets shared with the world. Until next time, be blessed and stay unconventional. In just 2 months, Beyond the Brick Ministries has reached over 2,000 families because of the contributions of unconventional givers. And with your support, we will continue to reach even more. We now have 3 ways where you can sow a seed into this ministry. It is our prayer that God blesses you pressed down, shaken together, and running over. In other words, we're believing God for an overflow of abundance in your life. Thank you so much for helping us reach beyond barriers to bring good news to those who need it most. Today's question comes from Jose from Philadelphia. Jose says, why does the government allow people to shop and dine out during this pandemic, but will not allow churches to convene to worship God? Jose, I thank you for posing this question, but I do have to tell you that the government has not stopped people from worshiping their God. In fact, you have to understand that we are the church. You are the church, Jose, not that building that we go into to worship. That is a building. You see, we have to trust God and yet believe the science, because our God is omniscient. God is all-knowing. And the science tells us that churches, places of worship, are indeed super spreading sites. So we have to be careful and be mindful of the fact that when we go into our places of worship, we can potentially either help spread the virus or we can contract the virus. So Jose, I hope this helps you, and I hope this encourages you to listen to what the science is saying. Not necessarily what the government is saying, but pay attention to the science. And I guarantee you, you will hear the voice of God. I hope this episode blessed you just as much as it has blessed me. I want some young woman or even a mature woman out here who you may be wondering, are you a Wonder Woman? I want to tell you, yes, you are. You have vision, you have creativity, you have courage, and you have the ability to collaborate. Why? Because you have the same power that God used to create the earth. It's in you. John says it like this: greater is he that's in us than he that's in the world. So you are a Wonder Woman. Please stay tuned to Unconventional, because God is doing something unconventional in this season, and we pray that he's doing something unconventional in your life. Until next time, be blessed, and I will see you again soon. Peace out.